The gravel and dirt shifted beneath Penelope as she moved cautiously, every small sound amplified in the quiet surroundings. The crackle of her armor brushing against the earth seemed deafening, making her tense with every step. She couldn't help but focus on the noises she was making, each pop and crunch feeling louder than the last. "You're thinking too much about it," Ash said calmly, her voice cutting through Penelope's concentration. "I've seen you sneak up on targets in full gear without a sound. I know you can move just as quietly on your belly." Penelope nodded, determined to control her anxiety. "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Take a break from that for now. Come over here and set up your gear." "The target's east, down in that valley," Ash instructed, her eyes scanning the horizon with a practiced precision. Penelope rose to her feet, dusting off her gear as she moved to Ash's side. Looking to the east, she gazed into the vast valley below. The rugged landscape stretched out before them, and from their elevated position, she could see a makeshift training ground in the distance, barely visible through the brush and rocky terrain. Penelope unzipped her rifle case, pulling out her sniper rifle with practiced ease. She extended the monopod from the buttstock and unfolded the bipod attached to the lower receiver. Lowering herself back to the ground, she settled into position, readying herself for the task at hand. Ash, always composed, sat next to her, raising the rangefinder to her eyes. "Shooter ready?" Ash asked, her tone focused but not rushed. "Ready," Penelope replied, her voice steady. "Target is 1,070 meters out, standing by a blue building. Do you have visual confirmation?" Ash asked, her eyes still fixed on the distant target. "Seen," Penelope confirmed after scanning the area through her scope. "Do you see the large rock just to the left of the target?" Ash questioned further, testing Penelope's observational skills. Penelope narrowed her eyes, focusing intently before answering. "Not a rock. It's a shrub." "Good," Ash said, with a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "The target has 2 holes in it." Penelope adjusted her scope slightly, concentrating harder on the target. "For, no, 5 holes," she corrected herself after a moment. "Good eye," Ash responded, her approval clear. "All right, the distance is 1,070 meters, elevation is 130 meters. You don't have a dope today, so you'll have to do the math on your own." Penelope took a deep breath, running the calculations in her head. Wind is about 5 kilometers per hour, temperature is stable, and gravity here is half Earth standard, so there will be less drop on a higher caliber round. She adjusted her scope again, her mind racing through the figures. She wasn't entirely sure she had everything perfect, but she prayed it was close enough. "Okay," she finally said, signaling she was ready. Ash glanced over at her. "What are you aiming for?" "Center mass," Penelope replied confidently. Ash leaned back slightly, raising an eyebrow. "Let's say they're wearing body armor and they're inside a vehicle." "What then?" Penelope smirked, her confidence growing. "A 12.7 by 99 millimeters round won't care." "Correct," Ash said, a small smile of approval tugging at her lips. "All right, let's see if your calculations are correct." "Send the shot." Penelope inhaled deeply, allowing her body to relax as she exhaled. She felt her muscles loosen and her pulse slow as the last bit of air left her lungs. In that precise moment, she squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked, the shot echoing across the valley as the bullet sped through the air, breaking the sound barrier. The recoil was powerful, almost catching her off guard, but she kept her attention locked on the target. It took nearly a full second for the sound of the bullet's impact to reach them, followed by the distant sound of gravel being disturbed as the bullet missed its mark. Ash, watching through the rangefinder, lowered it and looked over at Penelope. "Excellent shot, Pen." Penelope, surprised by the praise, leaned closer to her scope, trying to refocus on the target. "Really?" Ash chuckled softly, shaking her head. "No. You missed." Penelope let out a frustrated sigh. "Damn." Ash's chuckle turned into a light laugh, but she quickly returned to her mentor-like tone. "Don't be so hard on yourself. For your first time, that was a solid attempt. You didn't master close combat in a week, and you won't master this overnight either. Just remember, this isn't about instinct and quick reactions. You're used to thinking on your feet. But this is different. It's about method, precision. You take your time, check every box on the list, and the target will fall." Penelope sighed again, this time more in acceptance than frustration. "I know. I'll get it." Ash nodded in agreement. "You will. Now let's pack it up. The captain's expecting us back soon." Back in her room, Penelope sat quietly, her mind wandering as she flipped a small data disk between her fingers. They would be dropping out of faster-than-light travel soon, and she was eager to see what this little colony had to offer. The disk in her hand was smooth and reflective, a stark contrast to the ruggedness of her surroundings. Finally, she stood up, placing the disk on a small shelf at chest level and tapping it twice to activate the recorder. Stepping back, she waited for the red light to blink to life before saluting. "This is former Captain Penelope Astor. Identification number 8238. I'm including a biometric scan to confirm my identity. I'm recording this message to verify the claims of Captain Deeg of the Blue Nebula and his crew concerning the contents of 3 crates being returned to Terran authorities. A detailed inventory of the crates will be attached at the end of this recording. I recovered these crates from a smuggling vessel, alongside a defense turret that was still operational but has since been neutralized. The turret has been destroyed following retrieval and denial protocols. I recommended the crates be returned to the UEMC, and Captain Deeg has agreed to transport them back in good faith." Penelope paused, her gaze steady as she continued. "On a personal note, I strongly advise that this report be forwarded to the military police, and that an investigation be launched into how this equipment ended up in unauthorized hands. Thank you." With that, she gave another salute before stepping forward to end the recording. After adding her biometric data and the crate inventory to the file, she pocketed the disk. The quiet hum of the ship's engines intensified as they prepared to drop out of FTL. Soon, they would arrive. Deeg stood at his console, watching as the ship dropped into the Raxian system. He engaged the sublight engines, setting a course for the colony below. "Gareth, go ahead and inform the colony we're on approach. Open a communication line once we get a little closer," Deeg instructed, his voice steady but alert. "I've already sent the message," Gareth replied from his station. "They should be expecting us, but I'll let you know as soon as we get a response." The bridge door slid open with a soft hiss, and Penelope walked in, making her way to Deeg's side. She didn't say anything but quietly slipped the recording disc from her pocket and placed it on the arm of his chair. "Thanks, Pen," Deeg said, his tone appreciative. "Of course. They'll treat you well." "A tidy reward, I'm sure," she responded before moving over to her own console, readying herself for planetfall. As the ship sailed through space toward the planet, the engines were quiet, but their vibrations could be felt through the hull. Minutes passed before Gareth spoke up again, a note of concern in his voice. "Captain, the colony still hasn't responded." Deeg frowned, glancing at the monitor. "Is that unusual?" "Normally no," Gareth replied, "but they answered our pre-jump ping quickly. In-system communication shouldn't take this long, even with older tech." "Are we close enough to establish direct communication?" Deeg asked, his concern growing. "It'll be spotty, but we're within range," Gareth confirmed. "Hail them," Deeg ordered. Gareth initiated the communication protocol, but after a few minutes, there was still no response. The ship continued its slow approach toward the planet. "I've hailed them multiple times now," Gareth said, his voice tight with worry. "Still nothing." Deeg rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Maybe their comm system is down? Or a power failure. They didn't mention anything about being low on power when we spoke before." Penelope looked over from her station. "They didn't mention anything about power shortages?" "No," Deeg replied. "And they didn't seem like the kind to hide it if they were desperate." Just as he finished his thought, the console lit up with an incoming signal. Finally, Gareth muttered, tapping the screen. The communication came through, but there was no video, only a frantic voice. "We're under attack. Pirates. They're cutting through the spaceport. You have to contact the nearest patrol. They'll need heavy weapons. They're killing us. No demands, just killing." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Gareth immediately started typing commands into his console. "Sending out a distress signal now. A patrol should be close by." The ship, still en route to the colony, seemed to hum with tension, as if the very air had thickened with the weight of what they had just heard.